Bruce Feldman with theathletic.com, and a great national analyst, and also very good, by the way, in the studio for Fox Sports 2, joins us on 365 Sports. Bruce, thank you very much. What went wrong with Brian Kelly?
First of all, thank you for the kind words. Pretty much everything went wrong with Brian Kelly, starting with it was a bad fit, right? He just, what seemed to work pretty well in the Midwest did not work well in the Deep South in the SEC. And I think he started out, made some bad staff hires. And then, once things kind of got rolling after, he had Jaden Daniels, that was a good addition. And he obviously won a Heisman in his second year there. But when he left, the offense wasn't great. The defense wasn't great. And if you look at the history of that program, the bar is insanely high, right? The three coaches who preceded him at LSU, Ed Orgeron, Les Miles, Nick Saban, all won national titles. And they all did so within their first 4 years on the job. Brian Kelly was actually backsliding the last couple of years. And I just think that it was a really tough sell for people like, he doesn't really fit in here. He doesn't relate well to the players. And on the field, he's kind of underwhelming. And then so he goes into the game last Saturday night. And I think people know it's a long shot for them to make the playoff. They play a very good Texas A&M team. They're leading at half. And then all of a sudden, the bottom drops out and A&M just absolutely annihilates them in the second half. And I think for the fans sitting there, they're going, this guy is not going to get us anywhere near the national title, much less even the playoff. And at that point, it was like, can we get the money to get out of there? And the story I did yesterday on The Athletic was really about how Sunday just kind of went down. Initially, they were planning on just firing the offense coordinator, Joe Sloan, yesterday. There was a meeting between Brian Kelly and the AD, Scott Woodward. Brian Kelly, anybody who's ever watched one of his games, not the most chill guy. When it got a little tense, it got worse. And then it went, as a source told me, it went bad quick. And then all of a sudden it was like, hey, can we get the money together now to get rid of this guy today? And at that point, I was told, you know what, he's probably coached his last game in Baton Rouge. And then 4 or 5 hours later, after some meetings that included the governor of Louisiana, they made the move. Brian Kelly's out.
So given this coaching cycle and how bananas it is already, and it's only going to get more so in the coming weeks with Auburn, FSU, like heck, if Sark actually does go to the NFL, like all of those things that could happen could throw this thing into a ridiculous amount of flux. How do things swing back into balance for a lot of these schools who the candidate pool is not, it's not what it used to be, Bruce, when you were in LSU and fired a coach like Brian Kelly?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, look, if you're Oklahoma State, I think you have a more reasonable assignment. You know, you can go hire G.J. Kinney, or you can go hire Ryan Silverfield or Alex Golish, a head coach who's not at a Power 4 conference, but is doing a really good job, and you can buy on the upswing. If you're at LSU or even at Florida or Penn State, like at Penn State, they just fired a guy who came within like a play of playing in the national title game last year and wins double digits, you know, pretty much every year. He doesn't beat top 10 teams. If you're at Florida, Billy Napier had done really well at ULL, but you know, it just wasn't working there. Then there's Brian Kelly. If you don't win a national title within 4 years, you're definitely in trouble at LSU. They'll probably pay you a lot of money to leave, but like they're not hiring probably almost any guy that I think Oklahoma State or Oregon State, or probably even Virginia Tech is considering. And that's why I just think it's hard to find some sense of normalcy. And I think you said it when you're like, if Sark does go to the NFL, then all of a sudden you have an even bigger job that's open because you have a job that, you know, it's at UT, you got great resources. They were, you know, in the semifinals the last 2 years. I know it's been a little disappointing so far this season, but still, like, that's an even probably more desirable job than LSU or Florida. So, and then you're going to get these domino jobs that if Lane Kiffin leaves, if Eli Drinkwitz leaves, then all of a sudden those jobs are open.
Great time to be Lane Kiffin, isn't it, Bruce, and his agent?
Yeah, you said the right part. I mean, it's a really, really good time to be Lane Kiffin, and it's a great time to be an agent if you represent him.
So we've seen, and I'm sure you've seen it across social media, some of the backlash towards Scott Woodward for his role in this big buyout that LSU is facing. How much of that do you feel, or how much heat is deserved on his lap, and how much do people at LSU worry about him being involved in yet another head coaching hire when obviously they're trying to clean up some of that previous mess?
Yeah, good question about the latter. I think a lot of it's deserved, to be honest. He wanted to be the guy who was like the big name chaser. It worked out well at Washington, where he got Chris Peterson to lead Boise. It was not good at Texas A&M, where Jimbo Fisher went in there and they ended up having to pay him, gobs and gobs of money. Like, that was like an epic failure. Then he turned around and he hires Brian Kelly. And Brian Kelly, I think for a lot of people who are like, yeah, he's a good coach, but this is going to be a weird fit. And it was. And now, whether they have to pay him all $54 million or there's some kind of settlement, they have paid him a lot of money to go away. And it's also, basically 4 years wasted. I think the issue is going to be, do the real money people at LSU, do they feel comfortable that Scott Woodward would be making the next hire? Like, I think Scott Woodward's telling people he's going to be making the next hire, but will that happen, in the next, whatever it's going to be, 6 weeks from now or in the next month? I don't know about that. I mean, it's LSU. All bets are off when it comes to anything because, as you guys know, the passion for football and that program is ridiculously high in that state. And I just think that, Jimbo Fisher, Brian Kelly, you can get it right on the women's basketball coach, and you can get it right on the baseball coach. But football is a different deal, and it just counts for way more points for what people think about, especially the money people there. That's why it's going to be fascinating to see this play out over the next few weeks.
Bruce, it's not $200 million, but close to it overall with buyouts from just now this year, and it's October the 27th. And more schools are making more and more revenue with TV, college football playoff, and more, and yet they're spending it left and right. Isn't that how you bankrupt a business in some ways?
Yeah, I think you answered your own question. Yeah, I think it is. I think people are trying to basically thread the needle. You look at it. I remember a long time ago, Smokey will remember this because, we're in the same, same range of age here. But I remember doing a story for some magazine about how much money Mac Brown brought into the local economy, and not just like the University of Texas or Austin when it was rolling at UT. Restaurants are thriving, hotels are thriving when a program, an elite program, is firing on all cylinders. Certainly happened in Tuscaloosa. And I don't know how rare that is. I think it's not the norm though, because the norm is you hire kind of a guy who does okay, maybe has 1 or 2 good years, and then you end up having to fire him and eat the buyout, and people are just disappointed. You can sell the hope for a year or two, but maybe that's it. Like the Kurt Signettis of the world are ruining it for a lot of other schools, because he came in year one, this downtrodden program, and he got them to the playoff. And year two actually feels like it's even better than year one. And everybody's looking around going, well, he has the same access to the portal that you guys do. Why is our program struggling to go 6-6 and they're in the playoff? It's Indiana, So I think those things, people are chasing hope, and it just seems like a very flawed business model.
How do you change the economics of coaching, though?
You got to ask somebody a lot smarter than me. I went to junior college. I didn't go to Wharton. I don't know I don't know the answer. I cover college football. I do not I'm sure there's somebody who could give you a very well thought out answer, but I don't know it, because honestly, my reality is talking to the same people who make a lot of these bad decisions. Or chase bad money after good, or I don't know, like that kind of thing where it's like, oh, we're going to do this, but now because it didn't work out, we got to do that. And all of a sudden you're in a deeper hole.
Yeah, and I went to Tyler Junior College, Bruce. So you and I have the same background there too, and that age similarity. So, what do you what are you hearing? And of course, we have ours as well. But Hugh Freeze won this past weekend. Not sure if it's enough to save him. And then, of course, you even have Dave Aranda as Baylor is in a malaise. It's just a bad situation. It's just like there's nothing there. It seems like that is surrounding the program. And they're not quite like an Auburn or an LSU by any means in the way their facilities, the fan base, et cetera, alumni base, but they have committed so much, as you know, to college football and also athletics as well.
Yeah, I think the kind of puzzling part is, I'll say this, I really like Dave, think highly of him. It's just that you would have thought the defense would be playing a little better, right? You have a really good quarterback who I think is somebody you're like, okay, you can win with that. And I just, I remember back, I think we had the Auburn game on a Friday night, and you're looking and going, all right, this is how good is Auburn? But I don't know. Like right now, it feels like Baylor is a 500 team in a conference. Like they're not the only one, by the way, with a really good quarterback. I feel like almost everybody in that league. You look at Cincinnati, Brendan Sorsby. You look at Bear Bachmeier at BYU. There's obviously Levitt at Air. There's just like a lot of good quarterback, and it's for whatever reason, it's like, okay, I think it's been a little surprising that they haven't been better on that side of the ball. And I don't know what if there's a magic number, if you're Matt Rhodes, because I know he really thinks highly of Dave, but right now it's been, they're not one of the schools we talk about. It'd be like, okay, what's going on there? Is it going to be a case where, there's definitely a move? You go on the road the last 2 weeks and you give up 40 plus. I watched a lot of the TCU game. It was kind of a wild game. But you look at, I think there's 2 top 25 teams, and you got a road trip to Arizona. UCF is definitely gettable. I don't know. I mean, I would imagine 6-6, should be good enough to buy him more time, but you don't know. I mean, if you're Baylor, do you want to be in the market for a coaching search in this market?
Right.
I guess it depends on who you think can pop open. Maybe there's some dominoes going on. I just don't know if you want to do that, if you don't have to do that. Again, if Dave can get him to 6-6, I think that, maybe would buy him more time. Again, it's just like, but you look at it defensively is the part which is concerning.
Yeah, they're not good at all on defense, unfortunately, which is his expertise, and took over the defense last season and also for this season. Bruce, I watched the Nebraska game as they were trying to get to bowl eligibility for the first time this early, and maybe since, I don't know, Devaney, but they got it, and it wasn't easy. And you were saying that it's hard. They're playing football for them, even though Rhule's trying to turn the corner, is hard for them, it seems like to me.
Yeah, I mean, we get a lot of their games. I feel like I'm in studio for all of them, and it is. I mean, it just looks like they upgraded the receivers in the portal, and I think with Raiola, he's a talented young quarterback. I think Dana Holgerson's a terrific offensive mind. And yet, we had the game the week before. It was a Friday night game. They played Minnesota, and Minnesota kind of whipped them. We're just like, ooh, this didn't feel like, it was in the wake of like all the talk about how, hey, Matt Rhule's buddy, Pat Kraft, is the Penn State AD. This is the target of the search. How's it going to go? And they turn around and really lay an egg. Last week, they found a way to win. It's not pretty. It's never so far, and it's still early in his tenure. You're just waiting to say, okay, are they going to break through the way he broke through in Waco, right? Because he really got it going. And I think we talked about this before. I thought he did a magnificent job at Temple, and then did a really, really good job in Waco under really tough circumstances when he took over for, after the year Coach Grove was there. I don't know how it's going to go in Nebraska. At least they're starting to win. I think they're 3-1 this year in one-score games, which is a dramatically different what it was going under Scott Frost, and even at the start of his time there. And I think so much is hard to change a mindset when I don't want to say it's a loser mindset, but when it's like, oh, something bad's going to happen. And I feel like a lot of people around there just kind of feel it. And maybe it's a lot of 2 steps forward, 1 step back right now in Lincoln. I mean, they'll have an interesting game. USC's coming in there. USC has been terrible on the road, but very good when they've been home. We'll see if they can keep it that way and be more physical than USC. If I'm a Nebraska fan, that's what I'm expecting, but we'll see if it happens.
Thank you, Bruce. Appreciate your time. And also on a day where it's so busy as is every day. Bruce Feldman, theathletic.com, senior college football writer.